Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP. We are live Monday, May 10th, episode 430. I'm Lucas, and I am joined tonight by Christian.
What up?
And Paul.
Hi.
And Rob.
Hi.
And Peter.
Forever Destron.
Hey. So we're going to take you guys on a journey that apparently Zaldron has already answered the question to. So short answer, whatever Zaldron says in the chat is probably, could potentially be, the answer that we come to, but we will see. Join us on this journey here.
You mind if I kick it off?
Sure. Well, I just want to start off to say that, Rob, you thought of this topic, I don't know, what, like a month or so ago? Like, it's been on the sticky list.
Yeah, I posed it like a month ago. It's been rolling around in my head for probably a year or two. Although, like, last year wasn't the good time for this topic because we were all like, we can't see anybody. And, like, we're so desperate. I didn't want to breach it. But I think this year, I do think TFCon will happen this year. I think the world is going to return a little bit more to normal. I think we'll have a new normal that we'll understand after 2 or 3 years. It'll take a while to get there. But all that just to preface with, we understand there's a lot of drama right now happening with the current people that own the Botcon name. This has nothing to do with that. Just to clear that and get that away. This is the purpose that an official convention and an official club, that's part of the discussion too, used to provide to the fandom. Do we still need those things? Because when Botcon, or more specifically, it was just an official Transformers Hasbro sanctioned convention. When we lost that and we lost the club, we were all kind of reeling. It really sucked. And Hasbro, I saved the clip of it because it has me in it. I asked Hasbro, like, what are you going to do about this? Now that you're getting rid of these things. And they said, well, we're not walking away from it. And I felt that was a pretty big lie for 2 or 3 years.
I don't necessarily know I would agree with that, because, like, when did they put on that Hasbro Con, whatever thing?
HasCon? That was
HasCon.
2018, wasn't it?
18.
Yeah.
So,
and it was 2016 was when they told, all of us there at Botcon 2016.
This is the letter from Botcon 2016. I'll read it later.
Yeah. They said, we're not walking away from any of this. I don't know what HasCon was, but it was not a Transformer convention.
Bad.
It was a trade show.
Yeah. So anyways, that's the topic. Do we still need an official Transformer convention? Do we still need the club? Because Transformers has changed a lot in, those 4.5, 5 years. And so, yeah, open it up.
My question just in general, not like necessarily Transformers, but what other properties have their own, like, official conventions? Like, I know
He-Man,
Star Wars,
Power Rangers, Star Wars. I mean, Magic the Gathering. There are so many.
Obviously,
fandoms.
G.I. Joe did until the same time.
G.I.
Oh wait, no,
Joe
they had another year.
They had G.I. Joe had one more year, and they had a thing going in the 90s that predated Fun Pub, but it was only for a few years there, and that was pointed more toward the 12-inch collectors. But yeah, I think Star Wars and Transformers are the most like.
So of those
Even Star Wars is
conventions,
only
did
every
those
2
all
years.
start out as like fan run conventions and then kind of morphed into official things, or is it like kind of both?
Well, see, I don't know about the other ones, but for Transformers, it started off as both a fan run thing, but it had official support. The world was a lot different in '94. They had an official produced toy, but it was a couple of fans, the Hartmans. John looked up numbers on the back of a package, called them up, and kept calling people until he got to someone who said, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we'll come. Hey, we got these toys we're not going to make. Here's," and they sent him 4 or 5 of the set and said, "Pick one." And he's like, "Okay, we'll pick that one." He's like, "Okay, cool. We'll make you some just to have at the show because that's cool, right?" That's what happened, and they got them for free. Like, they didn't pay anything for them.
And that's the same time that G.I. Joe was doing its original run of fan conventions, and they had exclusive stuff in the 90s. Same time period. So whoever they got a hold of at Hasbro probably involved on that side of things too.
So it's
Celebration at Star Wars was a fan run thing too, but it was so big even that first year that it very quickly became an official thing too.
Well, Star Wars is a much larger property than Transformers, and always has been, and will always be.
I think things like this have to be sort of homegrown to start. Like no brand wants to like toot their own horn that much to be like, we're gonna do our own convention, and then no one shows up because it's not a fan run. They didn't do it right because they don't know how to speak to people.
Cough,
there you go.
cough.
Hascon.
Oh, there you go. But that's not a single brand event, like we said. That was a
but that was
campaign.
that was the company saying, "Look at how cool we are. We're going to do this cool thing for all you guys," and then no one showed up.
Well, yeah, it illustrates why it's a bad idea, and most of these things are homegrown, like I said, because that's where the support comes from. But then the money comes after they do a good job, and then everything kind of gets shifted around.
And what's important to note is how goddamn unprofitable running a convention is for almost everyone. Botcon and Fuck, as it came to be known in those couple of years when Botcon did go back to fan only, when Glenn was running it, the show just leaked money. There's credit card debt is the story of those guys. It was not profitable. There was Slagacon that ran for 3 years, kind of in my area in like Indiana, Kentucky area. And I'm in Tennessee, but it's close enough, right? Like that was just nothing but a cesspool of money losing out. I know ShardaCon was really successful, but like as in like people really liked it, but I know they were worried about the finances. They tried to find another way to finance it. It didn't work. Show never came back.
It
right?
did, though.
ShardaCon?
Yeah. TFCon came in and took it over. That's how TFCon Charlotte happened.
Okay. Like TFCon is the only long running, Transformer fan show that puts on a notable show. Sorry.
Okay, I was going to say
because there's DairyCon.
That was going to be my mention.
There's one in the Northeast. Our friend Ben runs it.
Cybfest.
What?
Oh, in the Northeast, or I thought Northwest is CybCon.
Okay, sorry. Maybe I've completely forgotten where he lives.
It's in like Kent, Washington.
Okay, my bad.
What about TF Expo? Those guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, Rob.
Is that one on the? I don't know. Is that even in the U.S.? I don't think we've ever heard of that one. But
I think it's the people that. The people that put these on, like, do it for fun, and they're not necessarily like their goal is not to make it profitable, and so by transitive property they become not profitable. Like they can be profitable if you want them to, but you have to. I think
it's hard.
I mean, it really depends on the show.
It takes work.
Most of the small shows are probably not necessarily profitable, but I would assume that like as you're building your audience, like. Then you're going to run into that type of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of things where, people don't realize how much overhead there is for all of these and just how much money there's involved with like the convention space and all the, having to deal with all the vendors and the security and the guests and yada, yada, yada. I mean, it just goes down the line of all the different things.
And you have to pay that money up front. A lot, or not all of it, but a lot of it. Like if you want anything there merchandise wise, obviously you got to have to pay for that up front. So you're guessing at how much you might sell, right? If you need convention space, you usually have to, pay down, to get that. If you need to rent stuff, like tables, booth setup, equipment, like it adds up, and you can't tell these people, well, cool, we'll pay you 3 days after once I've gotten everybody's, the walk-in fees. Like, nah, that ain't how it works, bruh. Right. So they're hard to run. I could griping about.
Everyone's having fun at conventions except the people that are running them.
Right. Like I could gripe about Fun Pub, and I could even gripe about TFCon. But for all their faults, they ran successful shows, and and if Brian of Fun Pub wanted to keep running the show, he could have kept running the show, right? Like from a finances standpoint. It wasn't like, oh, we're losing money, we have to quit. That's not what happened there. Again, TFCon not only has been running a long time, they've expanded to, they were doing 2 shows in the U.S. plus the one in Canada, right? Like that's growth. They know what they're doing to some degree on that side of things, for all their faults and the complaints we have.
And that's the thing for me now. I have to preface that I never went to Botcon, and that's why I'm having all of you guys on the show. Like I've went to TFCon for 5 years, 6 years now, whatever it is. But I never. I was gonna go that first year, like the last year of Botcon, and didn't make it. So, but from my perspective, just knowing how much there is to running a convention, it's definitely a labor of love for those people that are running it. And so that's where I appreciate the people that want to bring it back and want to do it and all that, and want to provide an alternative to TFCon, because, the way that TFCon runs a show is not the only way to run a show. And so I think it's kind of nice to at least have another outlet for fans. And so that's where, from my perspective, but then, I'm not really involved in a lot of the drama just because I never went, and I know some of the people running it, but it's not, I'm not close friends with all of them and all that. So, but yeah, no, I do appreciate them trying, bringing this back, and I'm really be interested to see what they do bring to the table with the new show.
Well, the new show isn't going to be an officially Transformed convention, at least not anytime soon, right? So it will not be what Botcon came to mean to those of us that went to it during the Fun Pub years, right? It can't be that. So to replace what used to be there, a lot of people put a lot of stock in the name. I put more stock in the experience of once I'm there. The experience I got from the old Botcon, the old official convention, I get at TFCon now. And part of that is my personal journey as a collector, because I'm very distant from retail toys these days. Like I still buy a little here and there, but I don't buy a lot of it. And that, like, the first reason almost anyone goes to Botcon or went to an official show was the toys. Let's be real. That's what, like, you're like, oh, I have to go because I'm gonna have to pay triple on the market later, which, later on that was rarely a case, right? You can point out some exceptions, but you wanted the toys because we're collectors, and that's what got you in the door. And then after you go to a few, you're like, this is awesome. I'm hanging out with nerds all weekend. The toys for everyone in our group, like that, the importance of that kept going down, right? Mm-hmm. It was still there, but it was less important. Then that's why a lot of us did transition over to TFCon, as because it's the second biggest show, as something to do. And now it's to the point where even if Hasbro did something, I wouldn't feel like, oh, I have to go to that, or, oh, finally, there's another official show again. No, because I get that camaraderie, that hanging with nerds, and a dealer room full of toys at TFCon, and I'm very content with that. Other people, please speak to your experiences.
I think you're 100% right that if they do their Botcon in 2022, like they're saying, they were going to do 2021, but obviously, COVID affected that. It's not going to be an official convention, but there is a chance that like the allure of the Botcon name and just like kind of the nostalgia of it might make it a successful first go show. And maybe they'll be able to go to Hasbro with those numbers and maybe, start the conversation. It might open the door to returning to form. It's hard to do that when you haven't done a show before. They may, let's just say that it's wildly successful. Like they have to book extra hotels. It's like, let's say it's as big as a regular TFCon these days or bigger. If they could illustrate that to Hasbro, and Hasbro was like, we're not going to do anything. Maybe we should revisit. This team looks like a good partner for us. Maybe we should do it. Like that would be.
They're
I think
already
that
in business with a couple members of the team.
There you go. Just saying that could be. It could be kind of a longer game. There could be a plan in place, like a step-by-step process, and I see a way to getting back to being an official convention.
So
potentially,
a couple things too is that being in an official convention there's restrictions that you're going to have by partnering with a corporate entity. So we don't know what those restrictions are necessarily or will be, but it's one of those things where if you're running your own show that's unaffiliated, for the most part, it's your show, and you don't really have it can be yours, and however it is. There may be certain restrictions that you have with like guests or whatever, and things like that. But for the most part, what you plan for your show is your plan. Whereas anytime that you're dealing with a corporation, there's probably things where you have to check with them on different things and whatnot. So I don't necessarily want to speculate on that, but I know one of the things is like with Botcon, I think they couldn't have third party, I guess, at the Botcon, right? Like the last couple things, or like it was frowned upon type of thing, or was it?
Yeah, not like it. They tried to get it out of the dealer rooms, and they pretty much did. I think I can't remember.
Initially they did, and then it just crept in, and then retailers were refusing to not have third party after a while, and I went out the window.
Yeah. I think I always felt that was a really, I understood it, but it puts that corporate feel on things. And then, that's one where, obviously FunPub versus TFCon, FunPub said, okay, we're going to do it. We're the licensee holders. We're going to do it. But Hasbro approached TFCon, and TFCon's like, nah, we love third party here. Like, we'd love to still have Hasbro come and be guests, which they did at the time. But they're like, we're not changing our convention for you laying down an ultimatum. And so Hasbro walked away.
And didn't Hasbro used to put up front some of the money for the Botcon events? At least to book the space. I don't know. I don't know the business side of it, but that's what I've heard.
I have no idea.
I don't know either, but I believe so.
I mean, if I was footing the bill for the show and it was the official event for my brand, and it became a magnet for unlicensed product, I think I would have the same response. I'd be like, no. You're already leeching off of me. You're not going to leech off my event as well. So,
no, I mean, if you got the purse strings, you can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, that might be a differentiation on an official convention. I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's okay. It helps. It gives a fine line in the sand for TFCon or whatever exists currently, and if there's an official convention. But that whole thing is really ugly and sticky, and maybe Hasbro just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. They kind of don't.
By the way, a wild Duron has appeared. Hi, Duron.
Yeah. Hey.
I have been apartment hunting, and I caught in on the tail end of a discussion, and know that it's convention related, and I'm like, hey, I have some thoughts on that, so I figured I'd drop in. I don't know what you guys have been talking about in the last probably 20 minutes, so forgive
rambling like normal.
Yeah.
Lucas, he's not on this. Oh, there he is by himself. Are you messing with that?
Yeah, he's we got 6 of us now, so don't you worry, Paul. I got it figured out.
Full house. So I think there is a need for a new show, a new Hasbro-sponsored official show. And here's why. I went to numerous Fun Pub shows. I didn't go to any of the ones before that because I was young. I was 13 in my first show, and then I went to the last one at 16. I've also been to a lot of TF Cons, and TF Con is the same show every time, which is good and bad. But I was talking to Lucas about this topic over the weekend. He was trying to figure out what the difference was between Botcon back then and TFCon now. And to me, it's like Botcon was always this nice, polished production. You know, the official backing helped.
You call that polished?
I did call it polished. And then
we're going to correct
TFCon,
you, but after you finish.
That's fine. And TFCon feels like halfway between that polish and like garbage basement con. So like Dairy Con. So yeah, that's how I feel. I would like something that is, you know, back to being that kind of polish.
We don't have like the nice at TFCon, you know, like here's a box set with foam and that type of stuff. You know, the third party companies do their own exclusives that have their own packaging, that type of thing, right? But Botcon had plenty of technical issues and credit card processing issues.
I never actually faxed my application into.
Well, we can talk about that. But yeah, I'm talking about the shows, like the weekend of the show. Like all the panels were fun. They always had like special things to do. I even missed the casino night stuff. I mean, who else can say they played
Casino
blackjack
Night was
with Gary
original.
Chalk? You know, I did. I played blackjack with Gary Chalk. It was fun. It's, you know, it's that kind of interesting stuff that you don't really get at TFCon because they always run the same panels year after year. It's the same stuff.
You watched soccer with Alec Willows at a bar eating pizza.
It was hockey, actually.
Was it hockey? And he called it soccer, and you had no idea who the man was. What a tale.
Somebody else we know was also there.
And had no idea who that man was.
It's so weird. But fair. There are similar experiences there.
You know, my thing is that, and I commented earlier on the show before I actually popped in here. Honestly, I think in the modern fandom, conventions are not necessary, and let me tell you why. As far as number one, what brings us all here? Mainly toys. And Pulse is giving us those now. For better or for worse, what we sought through Botcon in those toys. And actually way more if you really look at it. As far as, stuff like that. I mean, I don't have many toys left, and I actually have that toy. You know, it's like, and as far as the fan experience goes, I mean, I've got a lanyard thing over here that is so full that I'm surprised half of them don't fall off the freaking wall right now. And I know some of you got way more than I do, but you know, between TF cons and Bot cons and TF expos and Slagacons and everything, me personally, I've been to so many cons. The con experience, it just doesn't have the allure to me. I can understand younger fans, the allure of a convention for a younger fan. I can understand that. But once you go to so many cons and so many panels and hear the same stories over and over and over again, it just loses its magic.
That's subjective.
And to me, it does. Me, it does.
That was one of the things I brought up too about Botcon, and the fact that it's been gone for a little while is that the people that care about Botcon how many of those people are you actually going to get like off your couch, drive across the country or whatever, or fly or whatever it may be in order to go? Yes, there's super fans and all that. Like, I agree, we're probably different than a lot of people. But I do wonder if there is a certain percentage of that, of the people that, you know, really were excited to go to shows in their teens or 20s, and now that they're in their 30s and 40s and have other priorities, that they're like, well, or
if there's toys.
There you go.
But like what Duran opened up there with is kind of like the money shot, right? Like that I was kind of building up to, and that's why I think the club is a part of this conversation as well. Is because the club,
I want to get there too,
like, used to give us a lot of exclusive toys, and you know, and that's what the convention was too, was this big box set of toys. And what we get through Hasbro Pulse these days and through the Selects line replaces a lot of that. In some cases, supersedes it. Like the oh crap, I just blanked on the name because we're talking about it. But that Megatron, Super Megatron, we would never have gotten Super Megatron at a Fun Pub convention. Like, they did some pretty cool stuff with the Pretender shells and like the thrust that had the remolded wings, right? I mean, I guess never say never, right? But that was pretty unlikely to get something that far out there.
Well, that was Japanese.
They would have recolored Ractonite. They would have recolored Ractonite as Super Megatron and said, "Oh, this is how he would have looked if we'd been allowed to something." They gave us a list. We picked off the list. Yeah, there you go. Super Mega Ractonite. And then there'll be a really iffy comic to explain why Super Mega Ractonite needs to be a thing. And then people will fall in love with it. And then they'll all be on clearance.
All right. So I want to talk about the Pulse and Select stuff too. I think if there was still a club or still a convention, Selects wouldn't exist like it does. Because I think that stuff would just come as part of the club or as part of the convention. But since it doesn't, they know there's still fan demand for that kind of stuff, and they just make it, which is great. I'm glad we're getting it. I'm just saying that if there was still a show or still a club, we would get it that way instead.
I think that's worse.
I think the demand.
I think it's better.
I would say the demand for the Select stuff is not as high as if it were Botcon sets. If it was combined, if it was connected to a club and had that sort of,
I wish we had numbers
label.
I wish if we had numbers we could quantify that. But I disagree, man. So many things sell out. If they were to put it in a nice foamy box set, if they were to still, Hasbro could put, all the Micromaster, all the Pursuit of whatever the hell Odyssey collection, or Seacons. Why would anyone want Seacons? No one likes the Seacons. But
I mean, we do know Botcon sets. They were usually around 2,000.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only number we know. I think. I don't think we
limited
know, like, the sub-service.
The limited exclusivity is, I think, the biggest thing. I mean, yes, Selects is somewhat limited because the only way you can get it is like through certain outlets like Pulse. But yet you can still go. I mean, some of
it sells out. Some of it doesn't.
Some of my Selects, I went to my local comic shop and paid retail for it.
Yeah. What I'm saying, there is not a. Tell me a Selects toy that's not a retailer exclusive that is worth like more than 5% more than it was at retail.
Well, they haven't really been around as long enough for a lot of.
Some of the Botcon Club stuff was
doesn't
immediately
matter how
worth
long
it.
it's out.
Yeah, it was immediately worth
absolutely.
it.
How much is a Conehead set worth right now, and how old is that?
Shattered Glass 2-pack? Didn't it sell out and shoot up in value?
Yes.
Like, I don't pay a lot of attention to it.
No.
From what I know now,
you can still get it.
Legacy printed.
Ooh.
What's that? What is that?
Repack a bunch of junk from 4
This
years
is
ago
when
box.
Fun Pub repacked a bunch of their limited exclusive junk, put it in a nice foamy box, and resold it to us. And someone bought so many that he ended up with a case and has extras that he can't sell.
What goober was that?
I don't fucking know.
I bet he's ashamed of himself and probably learned a lesson and changed their buying habits because of it, right?
Probably learned nothing. Probably lives in shame for 1,000 different reasons every day. Yeah. And wants an official show, but not a Botcon for reasons.
I kind of agree with that too. I really do. Like I said, I
the
think
changing of the guards, let the old name be done.
You know,
at
it
least as an
changed
official
from,
show.
you know, from Homebrew, Botcon to OTFCC for a little bit, which was cool, and it changed to corporate Botcon. I think there's room for a new iteration to come along. I don't want Homebrew. I don't need, you know, super corporate like HasCon. That's absolutely the wrong direction. But there's got to be some sort of middle ground there that's better than TFCon.
There for a short while after the BotCon name was supposedly up for sale, a lot of people were saying, you know, asking Colin to go in, swoop in, and buy the license and rebrand TFCon USA as BotCon. And I was one of the ones that was saying, no, I really don't think that should happen, because essentially, like you said, you know, I mean, I'm not pooping on TFCon by any means. It's a great show, but it would essentially just be TFCon with a different name, and
that's not fair.
It's not fair. It's not, and I really think the BotCon name should just die, and that's not because I hate BotCon or anything like that. That's just my personal feeling, is that we don't need BotCon anymore. And
TFCon has its own brand and its own image and its own thing that he has worked. Again, I have issues with the way Colin does some stuff, but like, he has worked hard to make it what it is for lots of times, and he's proud of his name, and he should be. You know, in that respect,
he's busted his ass for it, and it shows. And TFCon is great because of it.
There's no reason to conflate the two.
No, and you know, if you want to go to a big Transformers themed convention, I would say go to that, and leave the smaller conventions like TF Expo and DairyCon and all these other smaller shows, PFCon, you know. Leave a space for those guys, you know, to come out there, and you know, who knows, maybe they'll grow, you know, in maybe they'll grow and become as big as BotCon someday. That would be great. But you know, the fan experience, and this is my experience, and your guys' mileage may vary, you know. You know, it's like on the back of a package, it says product may vary. My particular view on it is that I have had the most fun when I've went to small conventions. Why? Because the guests are way more accessible at small conventions. You see a smaller group of people and are able to have fun with a smaller group of people. Whereas if you go to TFCon, like, almost all your friends may be there, and you just don't get a chance to spend, you know, you might be lucky if you see them in the dealer room. Oh, hey, I haven't seen you for years. You know, go up and you know, bro fist and hug and go on, and you don't get to spend time with somebody you might talk to online, you know, from time to time. But at a smaller con, I've had time to stand and talk with you know, fellow collectors and fans on a more personal level, you know, and I enjoyed it more. And that's just my experience. You know, maybe you guys do like the larger experience and everything, and that's fine.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah,
that was a lot. So, Rob, you and I met at a BotCon. We've talked online before them, but you and I met at BotCon 11 years ago. We've been friends ever since.
11?
11, dude. 2010.
Like, I wasn't at 2010.
Oh, well, I met you at some other time. I just assumed you were there.
That's the one I missed because my stupid daughter was born on the Thursday of BotCon.
Oh,
that's yeah, I know.
I should have just showed up anyway. So when did I see you? 12, maybe?
Dude, it all runs together. I no longer remember when people entered the Katamari of my Transformer friend circle. Right.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't do illicit drugs.
Yeah, there's plenty of time to meet people at BotCon. That's where I met most of my Transformers friends.
There's
at least the first batch.
There's plenty of time to meet your friends there too.
I just said that. That's what I said.
He said MEAT.
AT.
I mean, I guess you do that there too.
But yeah, I mean, I think that the experience of, hanging out with friends, face to face is just, it's a different experience than doing it virtually. And I think that it's something that I would definitely recommend, going to conventions and whatnot if you have the ability to do so, just because it's a really fun experience. And a lot of times online, there's just so much, vitriol and whatever and outrage, and it's like you just don't get that at when you're face to face with people. It's just a lot of fun. It almost kind of like recharges your batteries. And I agree with you, Duran, that like every show is a little bit different. Like, you've got Comic-Cons that have 100,000 people versus the TFCon that have thousands of people versus some of the smaller shows that have a few hundred, and every experience is completely different. And they're all fun, and so that's why I think that there is room for all these different types of shows, as long as like everybody's not putting on the same event.
Again, there was a lot to unpack in Duran's statement. My convention experience has changed. Like the very first show, I couldn't leave the dealer room, right? I was just so overwhelmed. I literally lived in the dealer room. And then I felt really dumb because like I missed some really great panels that year. And I missed some cool autographs that I would have want, right? And so then like I started going to panels a lot, and then, dealer room interspersed and hanging out with my friends at night after I started to make some friends. And then over time, like I quit going to the panels as much because I can't listen to voice actor QAs about how to get into the business for the 800th time, right? That wears thin. I don't care if you're an official convention or not. I'm done with it, right?
Okay, that last time we did it was pretty fantastic.
So how I enjoy it changed. I still really crave face-to-face meetings with my friends. And whether that's an official convention or TFCon, doesn't overly matter other than my personal taste are more in like the third party side these days. And, or the Masterpiece side, which never really had a big presence at Botcon anyways, because mostly Hasbro talking about their retail stuff, right? The Masterpiece stuff is more done by Takara and, it's just kind of running. Also, you get so much less of it, right? You're not going to get, 50 of those a year, right? Even though I'm, I've been to a lot of them, I'm a lot more jaded on the hobby than I used to be. Like I think you are, Duran. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, I mean, I admit there is some jaded aspect of it for me, because I'm in a phase of my life as a collector. I'm still a huge fan. I still have lots of friends in the fandom, and I still love the toys, but I'm actively trying to lessen my involvement in just the hobby in general, and that's not to say that, that I regret everything and stuff like that. It's just my point of view in my life right now is that I have other aspirations, other desires that I'm trying to chase, but that, I still have my toys, but that doesn't mean that I don't crave, interaction with my friends and everything. Of course, COVID has put a huge damper on any hope of getting together in the last year or so. But, whenever things hopefully open back up enough to where we can gather safely, I wouldn't be opposed to going and seeing my friends for a little bit. And that is honestly, for the last few years that I went to conventions, the biggest draw for me were my friends. It wasn't the toys. It wasn't the panels. It wasn't the guests. It wasn't even the city location. I could have cared less. It could have been in South America or something other. If it was affordable for me to go there and my friends were there, I would have loved to have went.
Same.
One
thing you said I did want to touch on real quick is that I agree with you on is there was some more enjoyment when my friend circle was smaller. I still want to see everyone though, but it's harder when like a group of 30 is trying to figure out where to go eat versus when it's a group of 10. There's some, and we had some years like at like, some of the very last Botcons and where it's just like, we're splitting into 2 or 3 camps to go eat, because this is stupid. And, people can't agree anyways, and it's just like, you just need a couple people just to be the asshole and be like, we're eating here. Who wants to go? And enough people will go. And all right, we're going over here. Who wants to go? And you can reconvene later, right?
Rob, you're always good at making those decisions.
Botcon 2012. Botcon 2012.
Texas, right?
Yep.
I remember that because that's when I met Paul. And I really embarrassed Paul on some phone calls, and that was a lot of fun because I'm just some loud, drunk asshole in a van, right?
On the way to the barbecue joint.
There, but I didn't meet Paul.
Was it Hofbrau that we went to? Was you part of that group, or? I don't think any of you guys were there. Was part of that group, but there was like 10 or 15 of us. We all agreed to go to a place. I believe it was called Hofbrau, and it was several blocks away from the convention center, and we all walked, and, there's 10 or 15 of us, it was a big group, but not, a bus.
10 or 15 is manageable. You're bordering.
Yeah. But, and I still have a memento from that. I found a stray brick and picked it up and said, a stray brick. And I picked it up, and I had this running joke for the rest of the convention. Hey, look, I picked up a vintage broadside off the street. And I still have that brick. But, it's little memories like that. But, if you have, like what Rob said, 30, 40, 50 people that you want to see, you're not going to be able to go eat lunch or dinner with every one of them. And it's just not going to happen.
One thing I'll say, like, I know Botcon, it seemed like used to always try to plan activities linked to the show. And that's one thing it doesn't seem like TFCon does as much. I know that the one that got canceled in Orlando would have, because it was kind of like in the Universal Village. But for the most part, it seemed like a lot of the hotels that TFCon does, like there's like nothing around. So like if you don't have a car, and a lot of people at conventions don't, like, I mean, I guess you could do Uber now and all that, but like, there's just not as much stuff within walking distance in some of those places they did in Chicago as, like some of the others. So what is that?
Mr. Destron, I know that you have some pretty unique convention stories, and you've changed how you've gone throughout the years. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Sure.
You know what I'm looking for in particular.
I don't know what you're looking for, but I started going, but I'll tell you, I'll try and you can guide me.
Okay.
You can guide me around. In the 90s, I was going to TransCon, run by Dennis Barger. He ran BotCon 96, I want to say, and was eventually banned from the show. But he did his own show called TransCon in 97 and 98, in Chicago in 97, and in Toledo in 98. 97 was akin to an early BotCon. 98 was akin to a bad DairyCon from the photos I've seen. I mean, I went to TransCon. I've seen photos of DairyCon. It looked like a lesser. Then I went to 3 BotCons in a row, and then I joined the military. Well, then I was a homeless person and on drugs for a while, so I didn't go to any shows. And then I joined the military because that's a good way to stop your addictions. And I didn't go for a while because of that. I did this. There was this place called Afghanistan. They don't have BotCon in Afghanistan. And I did that convention a few summers in a row.
BotCon Afghanistan.
Yeah, they did. There was a Toys R Us in Kabul, but it was not an actual Toys R Us. It was a shop that someone had put a hand-drawn Toys R Us logo on the shop door, and they sold stuff. Not necessarily toys. And then I went to
Please tell me you took pictures of that.
I don't have pictures of that. It was on a drive, and we were moving pretty quickly. But 2007, 2010, 13, and then I started going to TFCons. So guide me, Christian. What am I doing?
So what you told me before is that you used to go alone, and then you got like forcibly absorbed into having friends. I want to hear more about that experience.
Okay, I went with family the first few shows. Through 2002, I went with my sister. We were in one of the DVD box sets. You can see us floating around in the background. And then, and it's during the Glenn Hallett interview. You can see I weigh about 100 pounds in the video. I'm like as tall as I am now, but about 100 pounds. I look like a crackhead, and like no joke. And so I wanted to run by myself for years until 2013, and then Will, our friend Will, saw me somewhere. We were at the Golden Ticket banquet, and he was sitting across the table with me, and we were shooting the breeze with someone. Sid was there, Joe Diaz was there, and we were all just doing trivia and stuff. Oh, and Brian from Fun Pub sat down and was like talking trivia and talking, what do you guys know about this? And do you guys know about G.I. Joe? And I was like, we were talking about G.I. Joe. So I was giving off G.I. Joe trivia because I might know a thing or two. And then we started doing Transformers trivia and just John and Will. After the dinner, everyone else kind of wandered off. He's like, you're with me, and I'm going to introduce you to all my friends. And he presented me to the group and it said, this is Peter, and you will all be nice to him. Because I was shy. Still am. I guess, whatever. The end.
Like, I don't remember much of anything because my brain's bad. But, like, sometimes memories get jogged. And what you just said jogged a memory of us sitting at the dinner table when Will introduced you for the first time, and you just kind of standing there. Like, I have that image in my head, it's like, oh, there's a new person. Okay.
I had met you earlier in the day, though, because
really?
you and I had been chatting online about the Kentucky meetups on TFW 2005, like a year prior, and I was off on an adventure, and we were at Brett's table, and I saw you because you sent me a photo, and you're like, this is my group when we do the Kentucky meetups. I'm this guy, and you drew an arrow pointing at yourself, and it was like,
I have
okay.
No memory of this.
And then I saw you at Brett's table. I was looking at Beast Wars kid books. He has a stack of them. And I was like, hey, you're that guy that I talked to online like a year ago. And you're like, okay, nice to meet you. And you went off and kept doing what you were doing. And
I should note that I am also awkward.
And then I was like,
nerds? Awkward?
Yeah,
no.
Right.
Wait,
so that was like one of my first attempts to talk to somebody. And he's like, okay, cool. Bye.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. It turned around. It was a weird weekend. It was a good weekend.
I think we've actually figured out really the key to a Transformers convention as well.
That's true.
I knew Will before any of you guys too, and I think he may have introduced me to some of you guys as well. So that's
what you're saying is Will is patient zero.
I think so.
There's a photo of me with Will before we met in 2007, just standing next to each other, like looking at something. I found it on one of the old Botcon pages.
What's worse, though, is that there are some people out there that's viewing this or listening to this right now going, who the fuck's Will?
It's okay. If you ever go to a con, you'll meet Will. He's there.
If you've ever been to the Captured Prey booth at conventions, Will was probably there, at least at some point.
Yeah.
He's helped out a lot. It's back to the crowd size thing. That was kind of a relief when Botcon died, and the next year, a lot of us went to TFCon, and it was just much more manageable. But like, I still missed everybody I didn't see, right? And there's been some friends I haven't seen in a long time because they only ever came to one or two Botcons anyways, right? They only came to the ones when they're really close and they can drive, right? They don't do plane tickets, for various reasons. So that it's always that give and take. But I think you were kind of implying, Duran, that like an official show would squeeze out the smaller shows, and I don't think that's the case at all, because we saw earlier in the show we were kind of rattling off some of the smaller shows throughout the years. Those all happened while official shows were going on. I think the more popular a thing is, the more popular a thing is.
Well,
so official shows and local shows are different draws, and the more fun you have at the big convention, the more likely you want to go to a small convention that you can drive to.
Well, my thinking on that particular aspect of it is that if you don't have multiple big shows, big draw shows, you give the opportunity for smaller shows to become a big draw show. If that makes any sense. You're not squeezing them out per se. It just gives them room to grow.
I think if there is a big draw show, it gives others inspiration and ability and popularity, like Rob said, to make smaller shows.
Because
Botcon always carried the flag
local
forward.
to go to their local small show.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's to be different. Like local small shows, you're not going to go out of your way for. That's and that's why they stay small. They don't have exclusive toys, right? Which again, as we've all mentioned, that's the initial get you in the door, right? And then later on, you come for other reasons, right? But the toys are nice to have,
TFCon has exclusive toys.
Yeah, but not everybody cares about third party.
Transcon was supposed to have exclusive toys.
No, I said PFCon.
Oh,
right,
PFCon.
Right.
Sorry. I thought you said TF. My bad.
I thought you did too.
No, there's no real exclusive toys at PFCon. Like, it's some wacko that, like, ruins all his toys and then just, like, forces them on people.
Those
Easter egg paints. He dunks them in the dunk.
Yeah.
Makes some weird colors and tells you
like Oreos or something. It's
it's bizarre, frankly.
One thing that I would like to see with an official show and what is I would actually like to have a little more access to Hasbro directly. I mean, even though you don't necessarily, like I wouldn't necessarily expect you'd have a lot of access, but more than we have. And like one thing that I've noticed with
you can chat with them on their web streams, all right, for like the first 30 minutes before they disable it. So I don't see what you're talking about.
But remember earlier when I said that the selects. Oh, you go, Lucas.
Oh, well, what I was going to say is that at the old toy fairs and Comic-Cons and whatever, that a lot of the, people from like TFU.info and Ben Yee and different guys like that would interview the guys from Hasbro. And they still do that, but it's just not the same as what it was like a couple years ago. And maybe that's going to come back. But I always enjoyed, some of that stuff when they would interview John Warden and do a video and post, kind of like some tidbits on what they're working on for like the, like the current toy line and all that type of thing. And so like I enjoy what they put out now, but it's just not quite the same as what it could be if you had an official show and you could ask some of those questions yourself.
I mean, they stopped revealing stuff at the official show anyways. Like we all noticed it and we all bitched about it because we're like, you can still do your big reveal at SDCC because, we understand why they did that for the big media launch again, as we've had in some side convos, that they're trying to reach new fans and casual fans with their stuff. They don't need to advertise to the hardcore fans. But they still should make it exciting for us. And they still had some big reveals, but they obviously cut way back.
Remember earlier when I said that the selects, the way they're distributed now, were a response to not having a show or club? I think those fan reveal streams are the same way. I think if there was a club or if there was a show, they would save that kind of stuff for that avenue rather than just saying, hey, it's out here.
I mean, and I suspect most of us remember that first RC headmaster said club in like the product SKU or whatever, right? Like it was obviously that was the intention, which always kind of
something building there.
Yeah, and it didn't go anywhere. So like, I mean, I do think you hit a good point that I hadn't thought of, Lucas. Though is the one thing that we haven't like toys. Well, we get a bunch of exclusive toys now, right? Like, so that's met. You want to meet your friends, well, there's plenty of ways to still do that, COVID notwithstanding. So like that need is met. Dealer room met. But at least being able to approach Hasbro, we definitely don't have anything for doing that now. And I don't think we ever would unless there is a Hasbro sanctioned show. Because I remember that Hasbro had a booth and you could go up and chat to, whoever was manning it. And they weren't just, random people. They were people that worked there. It's not like you get good info out of them that they wouldn't announce anyways.
Aaron Archer was at one of those.
Forget the booth.
People like Aaron Archer become heroes to people like me because they're accessible and they'll talk to you.
And there's the Q&A.
Hasbro was at the bar after the show. That's what it was all about. It wasn't the booth.
I never went to the bar.
Oh, I got wasted with Warden and Lenny. Because it was Lenny's birthday in Pasadena that year. And I was like, hey, I know you guys from those videos.
I want to tack on to that. When there were video game years, High Moon was there doing like pre-release demos, and we could play those at the con. That was always super cool. You could talk,
and you could make your character for that game that totally came out.
Yeah,
it did come out in Russia or whatever.
Hey, they made giant cutouts of Prowl and Barricade and stuff, and that was cool. We should have stolen.
There was also that giant Optimus hand from the movie, or from Prime, that they had there, and they always had the real prop cars from the movies. They were there. Yeah. There's stuff, cool, interesting stuff like that. It was rad. That's something that you'll never ever get with TFY.
Weird tangent. How many of you went to Botcon or Transformer conventions back whenever you didn't know anybody's real name? It's like you'd be in an elevator and you're like, So
it was just
now?
Names.
Yeah, it's like, so who are you now? I'm Weird Wolf. Oh, I know you. It's like first you're saying my name's Duran, and then they're like Duran, Weird Wolf. Oh, I know you. I know you.
Those of us that have our old Botcon lanyards, like they printed your screen name on them if you want.
I still have a couple.
You wanted,
yeah.
Yep.
And that was why over time we've abandoned that because like who goes to forums anymore, right? Like I actually still visit forums, but I don't post like I used to. That used to be how we communicated, and you don't anymore.
So can I pose a what if Botcon issue 1? Like what if Hasbro's like, nah, we're not doing this. We want it. We're subscribing to the Duran Times, and we want Botcon to die. So this company of gentlemen, which we believe it's all men, by the way. What if they go to some other companies and see if they would be interested in working with them, like Takara Tomy? What if they are able to do something in Japan and revive Botcon Japan? Would you go to Japan for Botcon?
No.
The answer is yes. Always. It's always
Maybe.
Yes.
No, because I can't afford that.
You know what? I would change it to a maybe because I really want to go to Japan, and like my wife would really enjoy going to Japan, and that would probably be a big enough draw to, to kick like, oh, we got to do it now, right?
To get it off the ground.
Yeah. So like we might actually try. That might actually be the kick in the ass to try. So maybe.
Like,
I'm going to adopt that one as well. Except I don't have a wife who wants to go. It's just me.
Trust me, it's easier that way.
I would probably if that was what happened and like Takara Tomy made toys, for them that are at the show, my ass would be on a plane. I'd be there.
John, you want to go with me? Let's go. Cool.
Be a Transformers spouse.
I mean, yeah, if Peter didn't bring the rest of his family, we could be Transformers spouses. Although I'm really promised to Will. That's how it works at cons. It's a Will show.
I have to admit, though, I mean, if you take it to that extreme, that would offer something an experience far more different to the fans than has previously been offered. I think the closest that we might have even come to that is like the years, like I believe it was 2010, whenever Yoke-san came over from Japan to sign autographs and stuff, and we got to meet him. That's the closest we would come to it.
That was based.
And to be able to meet him and shake his hand was an absolute honor as a fan. I mean, I know a lot of you guys probably met him and everything, and a lot of you guys didn't. But for those of you who didn't, it was an absolute honor. And for those of you who don't know who Yoke-san is, he is the guy that essentially designed what would become the very first Transformer, Sunstreaker, and a lot of the original designs he came up with. So, in a sense, he's kind of the father, I guess, isn't he? Or Transformers. But to be able to go to Japan, and I don't see Takara being able to offer factory tours in Japan. That would be a pipe dream, I would think. But
factories in Vietnam.
Yeah, so there's no factories in Japan.
Yeah.
They actually get paid real wages there.
One more flight.
Yeah. I don't see that happening. But maybe having more of the designers and people that are hands-on on hand would be more cool.
That at Botcon 07, were any of you guys there? I was not there, but they did the Hasbro office tour.
That was really
Peter,
cool.
and so Peter and Paul, you guys remember Rob? You were there too. Great.
Yeah,
I didn't go on the tour.
I didn't go on the tour, but
I went on the tour.
Okay, Rob, you saw the the crazy stuff and the prototypes and the what ifs that they had on display for that.
We were gonna get an RC.
Yeah.
Now we got bunches of RCs.
But I bet you that Takara would pull something together that was pretty similar to that.
They could. Would they? I don't know.
They have. They have. They do it all the time.
That's true. They had that Cybertron Expo thing a couple years ago.
I mean, okay, all the time, but they do it way more often than it happens in the United States.
For sure.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, let's get wild. It would be cool, and if they were able to pull that off, that would be special, and that would be worth trying to make it to. I think. If you could do it.
You guys have swayed me on. There is something that an official sanctioned Transformers convention could offer that we're not going to get otherwise. Like y'all swayed me on that, right? Like it's on the fringes of important things to me, but it would be neat, right? They did have some things to do that other people can't do. That said, I don't think the current corporate mindset of Hasbro will allow that to happen anytime soon. As we know, it's a revolving door there. And, that's the way it is until it isn't, right? But, from what we've heard right now, they purposely move people around on brands. They think that's healthy for the brand. So it's always changing. So whatever the zeitgeist is in the building at the time about how they should treat conventions changes. And right now they want to do everything in-house still. And they tried HasCon. It was a failure. They don't get it. I don't think that they have any realistic, it is fun to play What If, Paul, but I don't think they have any realistic, they're not going to license it out to anybody anytime soon. If they were even going to do it, I don't think there's any realistic hope of any of that happening. I don't think they're going to run their own thing anymore either, as far as a convention goes, especially not now with COVID hitting.
I think the virtual thing they did last year, PulseCon, I think that went really well. And if that became a physical thing, even if we had to share with some of the other brands, I think that would be okay. I know that sounds like HasCon, but PulseCon they really understood who the audience was and then put people on the panels to talk to specifically the fans. So I think if they brought that into a physical form, I would be willing to try that. They just have to be careful not to let it grow too big like HasCon did. I mean, what was Flo Rida doing there? What was Chewbacca Mom doing there? No one wants to see those people at a toy show. Don't do it.
Chewbacca Mom, good Lord.
Be focused, talk to the fans, do stuff that fans want to do.
Already forgotten.
Save the reveals for that.
Who do you think cost more, Chewbacca Mom or Flo Rida?
I'm pretty sure Flo Rida would cost more, but you never know. Chewbacca Mom was...
I mean, she's got to hire babysitters. She's a mom. They ain't cheap.
I cannot believe they made a big deal. They made a big deal. So many. I mean, go to the TF Wiki page and look at the guest list for that. Dude, perfect. Who is? I never even found out who that was.
Oh, he's perfect, and he's a dude.
But I think
there's several people.
A lot of this it is hard to put on a successful show, and I think the HasCon, they put on they made it too big from what they should have. And I think that's a lot of conventions have that issue, is that you want to grow organically. You don't want to have this huge thing and then fail. And so that's the thing that's trouble with Hasbro. But I don't think I wouldn't see where Hasbro would actually license out their brand to another party these days. I just don't really feel like it's going to happen, because there's too much risk there of them just having to worry about everything, with the way that social media is these days. And at the same time, like a fan convention is probably like on their balance sheet is so low, like, you know, there's
who are they marketing with that?
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
How much? What's the ROI on that? Fucking nothing. You know, versus we can pop a web stream and announce our toys. That's a lot easier.
I think it's where it might be more feasible to do something like a real life PulseCon and make us share. That went well. But like, imagine.
What do you mean make us share?
Reveal,
oh, you mean share brands?
Share with other brands. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Hasbro has like the hottest brands in the world. Like, let's be clear.
There's room for that. But like, imagine seeing the reveal, and like Jay and Silent Bob were there, and they revealed the RoboSyn Optimus, and then you got to go over to the Hasbro booth and watch it do its thing, and maybe even try it out for yourself. Like, that's a completely different experience than just watching it. I don't know. It just seems like there's room for something like that to exist. It's corporate without being, too large, like Lucas said. Let's do it. Let's do real life PulseCon.
The things they did with PulseCon that went well, and there's a lot of things that went poorly with it. It's this mishmash to where, just like I think it was with HasCon, the lessons you can learn from the failure on HasCon and for the parts of PulseCon that did not go well, the people that learn those lessons are too quickly out the door to grow and learn how to do it right so that they could actually get a fan convention that people didn't hate and felt was worth their time and worth money. Because don't forget, HasCon also costs a lot of money and you didn't get toys. And then they gave half-off tickets.
And they gave all the tickets away for free.
Well, they did half-off sales, but if you'd already paid full price, you were fucked. So they punished you for supporting them early. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Bizarre.
That was just that's a kick in the groin. But like, all the lessons learned are just they're gone now, and now you got new people there. And then by the time, as long as it takes to put this stuff together, FunPub would talk to us about it, like how whatever the next convention is, they are planning it like the year before, right? Trying to get it to happen, especially trying to get toys produced, right? There's a long lead up to that. And it just takes so long. I don't know if the current, what we've heard about as far as turnover, or not necessarily even turnover, but just moving people around in Hasbro allows for that to happen. People just shifted too much.
I think then you end up with people like Mark being in charge of the whole thing.
Is Mark the dude that pulled the toy out of his beard?
Yeah.
That guy's awesome, and he's the only person on the current brand team I like. Because he cracks me up, and he seems like he's actually into it and not just reading the cue card or, hey, I'm Kevin Smith and they paid me to hype this toy. And I actually like Kevin Smith for what it's worth. And that was a good marketing move, but that's the point. It was a marketing move, right? That's not what a fan convention is. It's not a marketing move. And with Hasbro, it would always be a marketing move. And if it doesn't succeed as a marketing move, why are they doing it? Therefore, it can never win. It's already tainted by being a marketing move.
You said taint.
I did.
I don't know. Corporate Botcon, FunPub Botcon wasn't tainted by that, I don't think.
It sure was. It was absolutely was.
You hate companies so much.
Just because I'm so much younger than the rest of you guys.
I don't hate companies. I just think there's a separation between we're here by the fans for the fans, and that's pure, and that can be a thing. And then there's we're a company producing something to make profit. When you mix the two, that's when things can get shitty. And so and that happened with FunPub. Because there were plenty of times, like I remember the first time they gave us a 3-pack, and Brian's like, look how cheap they are. He's like, we can do this cheap for you when we do them like this or whatever. And that quickly went out the window, and he never referenced the fact that he said that. But then they started making the 3-packs be different, right? Like where it was like the Rainmakers, where they were all actually different. And so like, and there's quotes from him where he was talking about getting every dollar he could out of something. Because again, he was a business. If you run a fan convention, you're not profit motivated. You just don't want to go in the hole, right? They put different goals on them, and it changes the aspect. It changes how it goes.
I know a guy who still has 4 or 5 sealed sets of those Rainmakers.
Who would that guy be?
Are they in foam? Are they in a foam box with a bunch of other stuff that didn't sell? Because I thought the Rainmaker sold, but I can't remember.
Sold. But he bought like a bunch of extra sets and was like, I'm going to sell these and make such a profit, and then didn't for 8 years. I don't know, whatever. I got to talk to that guy. He sucks.
So, but my question is, with Botcon coming back, okay, so we know that that's not going to be official.
It's not coming back. I want to I really want to draw that line in the sand. Botcon is not coming back. Someone new is using the name.
Someone old is using the name, along with some other people who have been in the fandom for decades. I know some of these guys and have known some of these guys since the mid '90s.
Forever.
Yeah, forever.
For life.
And most of them are great fans and great guys. And I am worried about the future of the name of Botcon and about how this is going to work moving forward, because like Botcon, this new iteration of Botcon is going to have exclusives, and the exclusives are being done by a company that is run by a former Hasbro employee who is not in Hasbro's good graces, and it's.
Am I the only one who was severely confused by the press release as to who's putting this on and why and how it's organized?
I'm not confused. I just don't know why it's so convoluted.
I'm confused by it. I read it and I'm like, I read it and I was legit. I mean, I literally read it right before coming on, and I'm like, maybe I need to reread it several times.
Jerron, at the top of the show, we mentioned that we were that coming out today and us doing this today is kind of a coincidence. We were going to like move past that for now. We'll save that topic for another day.
Well, I don't know if I'll be able to be on that show. I'm just putting my.
We're trying to avoid the drama with some of that.
I
just don't understand it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
a lot of people don't.
You don't know who is necessarily running a convention, and that's probably a good thing. You probably don't want to know who's running, running a show, because
I know who's running things.
Well, my two
Colin runs TF Con, Fun Pub, and we knew who the Fun Pub people were. Ran Botcon. I actually have since learned about this TF Expo show, and I know a couple of people involved with that.
Not everyone cares.
But what I'm saying is okay. So you know the face of TFCon, for example, right? Like Colin's running it, but like we don't know like who the whole group. Like I'm sure we probably know because whatever, we've been to 1,000 TFCons, right? But like
you mean the royal we?
Like
we the fandom.
Like most people. Like probably don't know who runs TFCon, and if they do, they know Colin, and that's it. Like whereas there's other people that help put on the show. What I'm saying is like I don't necessarily know that it's even necessarily important. What's important to me is putting on a successful show, for the fans. It's a positive experience for everyone that goes, and so I mean my question just in general with this is that with what Botcon did before they were corporate associated with Hasbro and all that, like, is there room
they were always associated with Hasbro.
That needs to be clear.
They were always
from
associated
94
with
on, always.
Mm-hmm. It's just there wasn't a licensee agreement originally because no one gave a crap about this basically dead franchise.
Dead franchise. Right? I mean, Gen 2 was second. I mean, it was dead.
Yeah.
Gen 2 was dead when they started 94. So the whole thing was in the toilet, and Hasbro didn't care. They're like, yeah, here's a high five.
Like Botcon was it 04? Is that because that's when they had 04 and 05? Like Botcon 04 was supposed to be the last show ever, the 10-year anniversary of Botcon, their 11th show or whatever, and that was supposed to be the sign off for it. And it didn't have Hasbro, or I don't know, maybe Hasbro was there, but it wasn't an official show that year.
No, that was Botcon 04.
Yes.
That was Botcon 04.
OTFC 04 was still happening as official. And
sorry. Because then Botcon 05 was the first Fun Pub one. Right?
And Christian's first adventure to Botcon.
Yeah. So, but Botcon, other than that one year, has always been a Hasbro show and has official toys there. Even though they got weird, like the year with Rosca, where she painted the blue line on them, and that type of stuff. Things got weird. In the Men in Black show, that was a train wreck. but they still had an official toy made by Hasbro, right?
Dennis Barger. Yep.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Lucas, but like it has always been an official show with Hasbro presence providing toys.
Again, like, what they brought to the table outside of the toys, like, because there's other things you guys have told me about these shows that have been a positive experience that is differentiated from TFCon. That's not necessarily just about the toys. So, given that, is there room for that show, and is there potential that show could be better than whatever Hasbro could give us?
Which show?
What show?
The potential Botcon 2022 or 2023, like whatever.
Better than
I'm saying, could that show be better than any of the Hasbro shows? No, it can't.
What I'm saying is, can it be in its own space of a differentiated con from the other ones that we've gotten? And is that something that like appeals to you guys, or are you guys pretty much just like, oh, whatever, like I'm just gonna go to TFCon and call it a day?
I see. I don't know what they could do that would be different enough in the space. If they don't have the license, then they're competing directly with TFCon, or on a smaller scale, they're competing with Expo or SideCon. And at that point, what makes them different other than being in a different region?
Yeah,
that's what I want to know.
See, that's a name. That's pretty much my thing. They're going off the Botcon name only. And we know, let's face it, we know that they're probably not going to allow third party of any kind there, even though Hasbro is not. And this is just conjecture. They might. I don't know.
I think they are going to frown on it, knowing
they're going
some of the people. They're like, they may not say no, but
though
the dealer room is going to be invite only.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And whenever you start excluding people for that reason, it's going to already alienate a portion of the fandom. And this is all conjecture here. I really don't have a dog in the fight. I'm putting that out there right now. This is just my 2 cents on the matter of whether or not I think the new Botcon will be a draw. And I am in a 100% agreement with Christian, is that if you can't offer new panels, new ideas, you're not going to have third party there, so you're not going to be unveiling any new product as far as that's concerned, which is something that TFCon has a draw for. And you're already going to exclude certain dealers. I don't see what the draw is going to be outside of the name. And I hate to say that, and prove me wrong. That's all I'm saying is prove me wrong.
Prove me wrong, children.
Yeah,
prove me wrong.
Just because we can't, we're not the ones running the show. Just because we can't think of a creative idea or reason for people to get there doesn't mean they can't.
Exactly.
I'm not quite to prove me wrong stage. I'm show me more.
Yeah, and so far I haven't seen any indication that there's something different.
Okay. And they're a year out. They can hold on.
Well, they've shown the Waspinator thing, and is that related to this, or is that
that's specifically what I was talking about? And
I'm that's something I'm not at all interested in, and that's just me. Yeah,
like I love Beast Wars, and I'm just like,
exactly,
nah, bro. I'm
it's
good.
Just a dude in a green suit, like okay.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. Never say never. As Paul does bring a good point. We don't know, but I don't think they do either. I think they're still figuring it out.
Well,
and that's not throwing shade. That's just being honest, right?
Yeah, and that's here's the hoping that maybe they watch one or more of them watch this show and see our concerns, and maybe address that in the planning stages of the show. And that's our challenge as fans, is how do you make this new show? You're attempting to bring back essentially a dead con. How do you make it viable again? In today's world, in today's hobby, how do you make it viable again? And if you go with the old model of conventions, I don't see the draw. And that's just me. I mean, if what new are you going to add to it, or if anything? And I'm not saying adding third party and not alienating certain vendors would solve that problem. I could be totally wrong on that. I'm going to admit that. But whenever you get to the point, what are we going to do? I mean, Chad, God rest his whole soul, with Slagacon, he threw out a pizza party. I mean, are you going to throw a pizza party? I mean, it's been done, and I have to admit, it was kind of fun. But you want to throw a pizza party for 500, 600, 700 people if they show up? I mean,
there's big shoes to fill there.
I like pizza.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. It was popular at the show, but
again, the point of this show was, can they provide something we don't already get somewhere else? Can an official show? I do think there's some things an official show. Again, y'all turned me around. Y'all literally changed my opinion.
Yay!
It's just like that stuff's like 5-10% important to me, right? Like it's not the 90-95% that's more important, but it's there. It's there.
I do understand your point as well,
yeah.
And it's made me refocus what I'm looking for a little bit more too. But you and I are different places in our collecting journeys.
Yeah.
And the friends will always be there no matter where you go. As long as there are friends at the con, you should go to the con.
Yeah. But there's nothing what the current Botcon name has that I can't get elsewhere, which is your point, John. But like that doesn't mean it will be a bad local Transformer show, right?
Doesn't mean that at all.
It just means it's going to be run of the mill. At which point, they're banking a lot on the name. It feels like.
Yeah, and that was my main concern, and that's all I was wanting to put out with this statement that they put out, is that to me it's kind of muddying the waters already with something that's extraneous, that really doesn't add to the show. It's like, okay, why do I need to know this stuff? I mean, I'm like Paul there. I really don't give two shits who's running it. I really don't. Yes, we know Brian Savage ran the Botcon for several years. Colin is behind, and that's just stuff that came out, and it's like, oh, cool, okay, that's who did it. Did that impact my enjoyment of the shows that I went to for years and years and years? No, I didn't give a damn. It was nice to know, oh, that's who's running it.
It did impact mine. I don't want to get too much. There were a few things about how, because of Brian being who Brian is, there were a couple of approaches he took to a few things, and a couple of, again, kind of like business decisions.
Years. Yeah, in later years, I would agree with that.
They did impact me and my enjoyment of the show. Not enough to not go, because all my friends were going, so I'm going, right? Yeah. So it does matter who puts on the show and how it's run and who's associated with it. Those things are important. Maybe not to somebody that is just going to be the casual person. It's like, oh, neat, there's a Transform. You know what they're going to do? They show up at the door around 1 p.m., pay the $5 to come in, check out the dealer room, and, for a few hours, and then they leave. And that's totally cool. Like, no, that doesn't matter. But when you haven't even launched a show yet, you're mired in controversy, and you put out a novel trying to explain a network of 3 different companies to put on a small regional show, you have started off on such the wrong goddamn foot, dude. Like, I actually don't wish people bad. I don't want people to fail. But it's just like, Jesus, you've already lost. And you've already made this so complex and over-convoluted from what it needs to be, which is you've already lost what the Botcon name meant to a lot of people.
I feel like it's par for the course, man. Like, this is what I expect, is like some convoluted message that didn't need to be made. Like,
there's a productions company that is going to license it out to another company.
That was my very
person.
That was my very first thought whenever I finished reading it.
I'm like,
why?
This show is, what now, like over a year out, right? And so that's the thing. Like, anytime these type of things happen when there's not real news, then a lot of times, you know,
you got a point.
There's news, there's things that fill in the gaps and whatever, and so we talk about things, and so like a year from now, you know, is some of those things, you know, going to be talked about a lot of the people showing up to the show?
We're fucking talking about it.
I think what it boils down to, ultimately, and you know, the base of why this War and Peace was written, and how the fans feel about it, and everything. It boils down to one thing: money. And you're like, why is money important? Well, the one thing that made obviously clear in this letter is that there's a lot of people that have a lot of financial stake in this Botcon name. And I think that and this is just what I gathered out of this thing.
I don't need to know that.
Yeah.
It's not our, it's their money, not our, we don't need to know any of this.
Exactly. And that's my feeling on it. But I think their reasoning behind it is that, okay, you need to understand this is why we're doing it. But for the most part, we don't care. You know, the fact that you feel the need to have to tell us that, I'm just sitting here, okay.
Yeah.
You know,
everyone loves Carl, but like, remember Carl wrote that initial, like, we bought the Botcon name, the first announcement from like a year ago before COVID. And like, that was just as fluffy and worthless as this. I'm sorry. You know, like, we didn't need, they're basically just saying, we bought it, we got it. Yeah. And like, they had nothing to tell us. So then all it did was generate.
Whenever that came out, whenever that came out, I was excited. I was legit excited because in my mind, I was thinking an official Botcon coming back, even though I knew that really wasn't going to happen. But in my mind, because that's
you
what
wanted it.
That's what I remembered from Botcon.
You know what?
So you fell for the trap.
I fell for the trap, but once the reality set in, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This can't be anywhere near.
We talk about this is all about money and them organizing money. If they wanted to get back to the roots of Botcon, it has to be about going into serious credit card debt, and it can't be about
your registration.
Well, they're already there.
No, if we're gonna go the roots, it's mailing in your registration, and you know, it may be some facts too. Page in your registration.
I like seeing this time of year, my Facebook reminders where we're 2008, 2009, whatever, where it's like, okay, the club said they're going to post these freaking registrations at this date, and here we are. And they said they're going to post registrations in March, and it's mid-May. Maybe we'll see them by June. They said it's going to be the week before the show, so I don't know. We're coming up on it. It's always fun to watch.
And you need to hurry up and get your facts in to get the first 100 pin, you know, until they made that the first day pin. Yeah. But you just keep getting the busy signal as you're sitting there at Kinko's, because who the fuck else has a fax machine anymore? Yeah. You know, like trying to get that shit through.
Okay.
You know, or somebody posts hey, there's a website where you can do a free fax. And so 500 Transformer nerds hit it at the same exact minute and crash it.
Yep.
Like, and then Brian is still sitting there because who runs it matters. Brian is sitting there saying fax is actually still fine, because it works for G.I. Joe, where it's like, you know, 20, 50-year-old dudes who don't understand what the computer is, right? And yes, I'm throwing shade and being an asshole, so, you know, bear with me. It's a podcast.
I'm going to throw this out there. Since it's still early enough for these gentlemen to actually put together a banger show.
They better have this shit on lockdown right now.
The
whole country's on lockdown, dude.
Well, but what I'm going to ask is, in your opinion, what is something that they can do right now that would show you that they're on track with
I can't honestly answer that.
We're supposed to avoid
Botcon exclusive masterpiece toy.
We're supposed to avoid the drama, so nope.
Yeah. Also, nope.
That's it, though.
Nope is my answer, and if you know, you know. That's what will solve it for.
I don't know at this point that there's anything they can do, because they probably are not going to want to start announcing guests and things like that this early, and a lot of the things you just can't. It's really hard until things are done to really put it out there as far as like what you're gonna have at the show. So like, you know, for
they can
example,
show me
like
something
your
in
custom
6 months.
class or your whatever, like things like that, like shit happens with stuff, and so it's like you don't want to actually announce something that you know you can't do like a year in advance. And I think that they were probably gearing up to have a show in 2021, and then, you know, they ended up canceling because of, you know, we still have COVID and all that kind of thing that we had to worry about. So
like, to your point, Duran, like if they did want to try something, one is tell some people just shut up, dude. Just shut up. Zip.
Yep.
And then they need to go quiet until they have something to announce, because for what it's worth, like social media has a very short memory span. You know, we talk about there's a, you know,
and
I'm not
if
getting,
you post something, it stays.
But like, I'm not going to get political, but we talk about a 24 hours news cycle, right? Like it's a really hot button for 24 hours and then nobody remembers it because they need a new dopamine hit of a big drama the next day, right? So like, just chill for a bit, everyone. And next year, don't say anything until you got something cool to tell. And that's how you at least make a show that doesn't get boycotted, right? There doesn't try to get canceled before it happens.
Let me clarify more of what I was trying to get at.
I know, but like, how could they make a big show? I don't think they realistically can, and that would be a problem trying to do it from the get-go.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just goes back to the question that we posed earlier: is how can they make the show different? And basically, what I was trying to get from you guys, elicit from you guys, is what is something that they can do that would be different, that would be a draw. You know, for me, you know, I'm not going to critique, you know, a custom, you know, or a custom class. Most cons have those, and not everyone is drawn by a con. Or I'm sorry, not a con, but a custom.
They don't have it like Botcon did, though. On the sprue, like fresh from the factory, they don't have it like that.
That was pretty tight.
It's nothing like it.
That was something that was awesome the first year, and then you're like, Jesus Christ, this sucks. I so like having my toy pre-assembled.
Oh, sure. It still was fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed it.
I always did it and hated that I did it, but liked that I did it. Like I'm so conflicted still to this day. Like I didn't do the first few years because they ended up not being important, but they started getting important, you know? And then I started wanting to go, like when they started being different colors and stuff. And so I went to them every year after that, but I don't know. I was always glad I did it, but I also hated myself.
That was my first in-person interaction with you. It was at the custom class in 13 because you were sitting.
Make up your mind.
No. The first time I talked to you was at Brett's table. And my first time, like, I know that guy. Because you were sitting with Black Arachnia, and you guys were having a really loud, in-depth, colorful conversation about something.
Probably about dicks, knowing Black Arachnia.
It was about wieners, and
wow.
Like, I don't even remember what this is, but I knew what it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know that guy. I've talked to that guy. I'm going to talk to that guy later.
Apparently people remember, you know, a 6'5" redheaded fat dude. Like I stick out with mutton chops, right? Like a lot of people recognize me more than I recognize them. And I've learned that throughout life, like not just Transformer conventions, but like, you know, and the only other person I think who's taller than me at the show is like maybe Andrew Hall and Carl, right?
Yep.
So Carl's taller than me, or is he I think he's taller than me.
Andrew Hall's like 6'8". Carl's pretty tall.
He's a giant.
Will is taller than you, or the same height as you, something like that.
6'5". So
Will's pretty tall, but he's not taller than Rob.
Yeah,
it's one of those.
It's been
if
a
anybody
while.
is at my height, it weirds me out because I never look at people. I'm always looking down at people.
Oh,
you know, both. Yeah, exactly. Like both physically and mentally. So peons. But yeah. So did you have anything, Duran? You posed the question. Did you have an answer? I don't think.
No,
I
mean, just my 2 cents is that, you know, just try to be different, you know. But I'm struggling to sit here and think, how can you be different? You know, what's not been done outside of what
I answered the question.
Yeah, outside of what Paul said, I really can't suggest anything else.
And, yeah, if they did a really cool Masterpiece exclusive, I would have to be paying attention, right? Because like that's my jam. But even then, I don't buy all the Masterpiece variants, right? So
yeah, it's just that what I'm seeing so far, I'm not seeing something that would entice me as an increasingly more casual fan to come to this convention.
If it was in your backyard and you didn't have anything that weekend, you wouldn't show up for a day, pay the $10 at the door, and come in and hang out.
Yeah, I would probably do that.
Exactly.
But where's the money at? Are you going to get your big dollar pre-registers from me right now? No. And I'll be honest,
but they can't start off the big dollar pre-register. It's going to be their main cost needs to be the venue, and they need to hope to have enough foot traffic to cover their fairly cheap venue. Yeah. And so the whole point is they're going to have to start off so small. It will, and there's no official Hasbro connection.
So it's not going to be at the Galt House.
It is at the Galt House.
Is it?
It isn't anywhere.
Because I was starting to say the Galt House would be pretty expensive.
It's at the Galt House. They said that last year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So they've at least picked a good venue.
Well, let's see if that holds for 2022. Though.
Yeah. I mean, I question.
Who knows?
I'm already questioning as whether or not that would be financially feasible. And I don't even know the. Yeah, I don't even know the financial aspect. I mean, it just. I don't.
I was gonna say, Duran, aren't you going to be the closest to the show then, or is Rob closer?
No, Duran's closer.
I'm way closer. I mean, I live in Louisville right now. Although, hopefully, in the next 3 weeks, I'll be out of Louisville, but on the outskirts.
So still in the area.
I'll still be in the area. Well, I mean, whenever the last Botcon happened in 2016, I lived 26 miles out of town, and I could literally take the interstate and be at the Galt House in less than 30 minutes from my apartment at that time, and it was great. I mean,
I got a question for you, Duran. Like, what are the Botcon blues like when you literally leave the show and drive down the street to your house versus like a 3-hour, drive?
You don't have any
or
processing
a plane
time.
Yeah. Like when you get home and sit down on the couch, you just like what's that feel like if it's only been an hour since you were there?
That actually happened twice because whenever Lexington.
That was my first, was Lexington.
Whenever Lexington happened, I lived 25 miles down the road at that time. So there's been 2 Botcons. I literally lived within a half hour of the show, and I didn't stay at the show. I slept in my bed every night.
Wow.
And it
Awesome.
was a surreal moment to actually sit down on my couch and open my toys for the first time. Granted, the second time happened, I had 2 house guests that was staying at my apartment. So we left the con and we were talking about the con on the way home, and we sat around and talked for hours, much like you guys would have when you went up to the room and sitting there drinking and opening toys. That was great, but to be able to do it in my own home, that was even better. The only caveat was that you didn't expect about every 15 minutes, You
need the noise down. You guys are being too loud.
No, people coming by the room, making the rounds. Yeah, making the rounds.
I will say, like, for a long time, I left the show on Sundays. And so, like, that Sunday flight back home, or drive back home was always kind of, a sad, lonely affair. For some of the TF cons, though, they were too far out. Like, it was close enough to drive, but too far to do the same day. Unless you just missed all of Sunday, which I didn't want to do. And so it was kind of nice because Sunday night, there's a lot less people there, but usually still enough to hang out. So you get it helps, slower you down, right? And like I rode with Orson to like a couple of those shows. And so it's like you lower down to a bit, and then you help like pack the truck and stuff, right? And then like Monday, you get to ride back with somebody to chat with, which helps, lower it down more. And so like those help stave off, what we call the Botcon blues. A little bit that easing off. I can imagine just here's a room of 30 people every night getting drunk, and then 30 minutes later, I'm at my house.
Yeah.
Like that would be that leaves me like
twitching.
I
will say though, the last Botcon, somebody was Typhoid Mary at that show, and a lot of people got sick after that show. I was one of them. I missed, it's like I took off the week of Botcon because I was also a booth helper with Captured Prey, and we had an event a couple days before the show, and lots of prep for the show and everything like that, and then after the show. And I know Orson got terribly sick at the show. He missed almost the entire second day.
Yeah, he was on death's door.
Yeah, and so much so that I was pretty much running the booth for him, and it was bad. And then I really didn't get a chance to have the post-con blues in 2016 because after the show was over, we got everything packed out and taken back to his storage unit. We didn't even unpack his trailer. We just literally backed it in, parked it, and we went home because we all felt so bad. And then I had to call in for work the next 3 days because I was hurling my guts out, and because somebody brought some kind of flu to the show and was walking around, hey, how you doing? Hey,
Are you sure it wasn't just the fact that they played Green Day's "The Time of Your Life" as the last song as they closed down the dealer room?
I had forgotten.
That might have infected you with some sort of disease or cancer. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing.
Gross.
Well, I'm pretty sure chlamydia was not part of my symptoms. So, but it's just, it's a great experience. And I have great concerns with the new Botcon that it will, and that's why I don't want it to come back. I don't want it to do
your own thing.
Yeah,
forge a new path.
Yeah, forge a new path. I don't want it to replace what I remember from Botcon. Yes, the old Botcon, especially in the later days, had some unsavory aspects to it. But in the end, it was a very fun show that I looked forward to every year.
Yeah, it's not going to
absolutely.
It's not going to replace the memories in your mind. It's like those people, they made a new Voltron. Now Voltron's ruined forever, or whatever. No, I agree with that. Memories are there. Your heart is there. Enjoy that. Just don't do the new thing if you don't want to. If you want to do the new thing, do the new thing.
I want the next 13-year-old Christian to go to his first Botcon and think it's the coolest thing ever. Like, Peter's boy. He could go to Botcon for the first time as that age and say, wow, it's Botcon. So just like Guy did.
I got a point no one's brought up. What's happening in 2022 with Transformers, as far as we know?
Oh, new movie.
Is there a new movie?
New movie, new fans, new convention. Maybe.
Hey, the movie years were always the biggest at Botcon. So
yes, we'll see. The timing is right, is all I'm saying. After a year and a half of dismal despair, a great toy line.
Buzzworthy Bumblebee?
I don't know.
Buzzworthy Bumblebee is the toy line of our generation. I mean,
hey, no one even knows
it's selling good.
The still unannounced Buzzworthy Bumblebee line.
Did you know that there was a Bumblebee movie toy line? Because I didn't at the time.
Peter is well aware, Rob.
I know the guy. According to Schmax, I know the guy who has the #1 collection of the Bumblebee toy line.
Is it
movie
Nick?
Toy line? No.
Oh.
No, it's not Nick. And
it's probably the same Joker that has all those foam boxes of crappy Fun Pup toys.
Yeah, it's you.
Oh man. That's the best. Like going back and watching some of those Infinity Closets where you're completing your Bumblebee movie collection.
It's not fun to watch that, man.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's because it's Peter. It's fun.
Yes. Peter's always fun.
Thank you guys, but it was it's agonizing. I can't wait to record more. Oh, my latest whatever video where I was like, I got this Lio Convoy or Leo Prime or whatever the hell. I already had that.
Hit me up then.
Okay.
We can talk about that.
Okay. Anyway, yeah.
Should we do some closing thoughts? It's getting late.
I would like to close with the letter that I got from Hasbro at Botcon 2016.
Please don't read the whole thing.
I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Cliff
read
notes.
The last bits. It's really just the last 2 sentences. It talks about stuff that was happening in that year, 2016. Some stuff happened, some stuff didn't. But at the end it says, Hasbro remains committed to providing fans with exciting experiences, events, and new fun ways to engage with the Transformers brand. We look forward to sharing updates with you as our future plans evolve. Thank you for sharing our love for Transformers, and we look forward to seeing you at the show.
HasCon.
And they did.
Family.
Family. You know what? They did come up with exciting. They came up with experiences, events, and new fun ways to engage the Transformers brand. That did happen, just not the way we thought.
Right.
Was it fun and people didn't like it?
Well, HasCon notwithstanding, COVID has forced them to change the way that they present things, and it has been fun, and it has been rewarding, and it has brought on board a whole bunch of new fans for a bunch of great new exclusives and all sorts of stuff that is really bringing people into the best parts of the franchise for the last, I don't know, however many years. I'm really enjoying what we're getting right now, and they're doing a good job with it.
Like, on the one hand, that letter was written 5 years ago by completely different people that have nothing to do with Transformers anymore. But on the other hand, like, that's kind of the whole point of me posing the topic, right? Is that for the most part, like, I think the club is completely replaced. Other than, like, we're not getting that slow drip of fiction we used to get from the club.
Which I didn't even care for.
Yeah, I didn't.
Most people didn't care. I read it.
I've read all of it, and some of it was okay, and some of it was not.
Yeah, but it was also like 6 pages every 2 months. I can't remember that. It was a lot better when I went back and read it as a whole. Like whenever they finished, it's like, oh, there's an actual story I can remember now. Like, it was more enjoyable. But I think that's kind of my closing thoughts is, again, less about the new people running the name Botcon and more just, do we need it anymore? And y'all turned me around on there are things that they could provide in an official convention and in an official club, like if they wanted to, but I don't think the fandom needs those things anymore. Like, the main things they provided, I feel the fandom has already covered, or that they are covering through Pulse. And it took them a while to get there with Pulse and Selects. But I feel that those needs are met. They have avenues. In general, it's more approachable and more available and more flexible than the club was, because a lot of people, were upset at having to pay for the club, to get the access to buy it. And now you have to pay for Pulse to get, like, first dibs at stuff.
Yeah.
That's debatable.
Yeah, exactly. Like, maybe one day they will put that same restriction on it, and so now it's not really any more or less accessible, except you don't have to buy a whole sub-service. But although I think they also, eventually, FunPub made that where you could just buy the ones you wanted as well or something, right? I can't remember. It all runs together.
Once everything went on clearance, then it was a free-for-all. But when you were buying for the year for the FSS, you were buying for the year for the FSS.
Okay. So, in general, Pulse is more accessible because it also is, trying to reach out a little beyond, here's a web store, you can buy stuff. So I don't know. And overall, I think what we have now, for the most part, is better. And some of that, again, from the toy side, I think it's definitely better. And from accessibility, I think it's definitely better. And from a convention aspect, tainted with my dirty third-party love, I enjoy that side of TFCon more than I would the Hasbro retail side if they shut out third-party, which they probably would. So keeping that in mind is about my perspective. So that's my final thoughts.
I'm pretty much going to echo Rob. Do they need to throw on a show called Botcon? In my opinion, no. But am I saying that they should not put on a show? No, by no means. I don't just particularly think it needs to be called Botcon. I think that I hate to say it, but I think they spent a whole lot of money for nothing on that aspect to get a name that really they don't need. If they want to put on a show, put on a show. As far as things that are offered, I'm right there with Rob. I think that, we already have an avenue for those things. So, I'm kind of indifferent as to a new show in its entirety. It's, what's going to be my draw for it. Right now, I can't even tell you what that would be. I mean, you go ahead and have a show, but you don't need to have the Botcon name. That's my thoughts.
The Botcon name used to mean something, and it meant different things to different people. I know what it meant to me, and I think once it became the Fun Publications Botcon, the flavor had changed so far from where it was in the 90s. For me, this is all just personally speaking, it was still fun. I still had a great time. The box sets were often beautiful. They varied year to year, but for the people who associate Transformers conventions with Botcon, I think that there's merit in the name. For people who just want to go to a fun Transformers convention, I mean, your mileage is going to vary. So we don't need the club anymore. The FSS was always a mixed bag. I echo the sentiments about the Pulse stuff being it's superior in almost every way, as far as accessibility, character selection, quality. It's amazing. Price, yeah, I love it. And this is something that I was saying ages ago. We don't need to pay up front for a subscription service that I'm only going to need. I think we talked about this last week, Phil and Lucas and I. I don't want to spend $400, and I know I'm going to not want 4 of the 6 figures or 4 of the 6 sets that we get or whatever. With this one, I can pick and choose what I want. There's no one holding a gun to my head telling me I need to buy all these different things. I'm going to buy all the different things because I have a freaking problem. But
the old model is not viable anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's not viable. I just think what we have is better.
This is better.
Yeah.
Paul, Lucas?
I do want to mention book club this week is going to be RID 35 and
we're still getting last.
Fuck book club. We're talking about Botcon club.
We're still getting last thoughts from a couple people.
I mean, okay, so for my perspective, I never went, so I think for me it would be interesting to see a different flavor on a Transformers convention because I've been to 1,000 TF cons at this point, and so I would be interested to see something new. And so I'm definitely, interested. And so I will, hold my judgment on whether or not I'm going to attend the show or not. And I'll wait till closer to the date of the show. But it is definitely something that I'm interested in. So I don't know. I wish them all the best, and I hope that they can put on a successful show that is going to be, continue for, years down the line. Because you don't like to see shows that die. So
I think it'll be tough if they can't, if they can't wrangle something that makes them uniquely exclusive with Hasbro, an official, within like 2 to 3 years. Then I think they failed, honestly. Like I think I kind of think like Duran wins, and yeah, it shouldn't have existed. But I don't want to root for them not to win. I think they I feel good about it. I want them to do well. There's big shoes to fill with the name Botcon. It has a lot of weight to it, a lot of different people. So I'm reserving judgment until it happens, and I'll probably be there if they do it. I'll probably do my best to be there. So I'm not like a lot. Peter's been to a lot more than me, but the ones that I went to were good, and I know the reason I'm even on the show is because I went to the right Botcons at the right time. So I feel good about it, and I hope they don't F it up.
Yeah.
They totally could.
That last sentence.
You're muted.
Yeah,
Peter.
You
said that last sentence, and then we didn't hear you.
Farts.
Sorry.
I hope they don't fuck it up.
You just made me think of one thing, Paul. I'm sorry to interject at this late, but we talked about it earlier. You know, there's the drama about who's running it, right? And you're like, who the fuck cares, right? The people that care about the name Botcon, I think, has a very large Venn diagram overlap with who is running the show and actually knowing people in the fandom. I think that's people that know are people that know. I think people that are more casual fans, at this point, Botcon was 5 years ago. It's something they hear about in Tales Pass, and they don't really give a fuck. Because they don't know who's running it. They're not that tied into it. The name doesn't mean anything to them. The people the name means something to do know about the other bullshit that goes with it.
You might be right, but we are all so close to it and so in the know on it that you have literally no idea what it's like to hear about Botcon and not have been there.
Yeah.
So
we're in our own bubble.
It's
a big bubble, but
even the name Botcon is fucking funny and clever, and especially now with everyone knowing what a con is, it's like it's the best convention name of all time, honestly. So
it's really good.
You can't beat it.
Did you have any closing thoughts, Christian?
I was first. I read the letter.
He read the letter.
Well, I know you read a letter. You didn't give opinions. I
did. I said we got all the stuff that they promised. Just it took a while, and it's okay. I think there's room for a show. I hope the new Botcon goes well. I wish them all the best. We'll see.
Family.
Should we have Sergio weigh in?
The fact that that's a word that we all spoof shows how the lack of my faith in their ability to produce a fucking fan convention.
That shows the lasting impact of HasCon.
Family HasCon. Yeah.
In the military, there's a thing called HasCons, H-A-Z, and it's a hazard condition, and you don't want to have...
That's the perfect note to end this on.
So I was going to mention, since Rob interrupted me before, book club, RAD 35, and what was the other one? Punishment. So check that out. That is Sunday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on the TF Talk Discord. So everyone will be talking it up about those books. Thursday night, we are going to have microcasters. I believe this week, Christian, we're doing deep cover. Is that right?
Deep cover and deep cover.
Yes. What a porno sounding name.
So come join us on the TF Talk Facebook page. We'll be live at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. And then join Rick whenever he feels like sending me a video. I'll put it up. So it'll be Friday or Saturday or something like that. So
I am going to throw in something. If you guys like this show and the shows that air on this channel and what we've talked about in this show, you know what would be really cool is if you went down there and liked and subscribed to this channel.
Smash that subscribe button. Smash it. Slap that like button.
You know what? And also try out Raid Shadow Legends.
Warhammer, smash that like button.
Oh boy.
It's proven that being cheesy and asking people to sub and like your videos literally works, and we should actually start the show with that.
Yeah.
We never remember. I never think about
doing it 2 hours in.
I did this show for nearly 10 years, and I did not do that, and I regret every show that I didn't do that on.
Dude, but I was seriously out my wallet. I kept telling myself, "Oh fuck, I need to say that at the beginning," and then I get in the show and I completely forget every time.
Yeah. Well, and Lucas can attest. Whenever you're on air and you got all these things going on and you're live. Your memory just becomes Swiss cheese. I know this for a fact.
Let's talk shop after we've closed down the show.
Yes.
But seriously,
good night, audience.
If you like it, see you next week. Subscribe and like and share.
There you go. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.